Hello everyone, hello and welcome to the session on HP ALM / Quality Center. I am very proud to introduce you to Shankar, who is going to be the new trainer handling this specific course with ITeLearn. So, to give you a very brief overview about Shankar and then continue with the remaining presentation, um, I will like to talk about Shankar's expertise in the field of software testing. He's got over 12 years of industry experience, primarily on functional and non functional testing in both the manual and automation space. He has extensive skills and knowledge in HP Quick Test Professional, Selenium, LoadRunner, VSTS, and multiple tools that he has used for automating his whole process of software testing in these 12 years. Apart from these tools, he is an expert in QC-ALM, and he is here today to talk about the tool as is, what kind of a market there is, introduce himself, and then get you ready for the upcoming sessions. What we're looking to do is schedule some live trainings along with some historical videos that we have in these courses and be able to take you through a live project execution by as a phase 2 of this training. Shankar, having said that, welcome to ITeLearn. Thank you so much for being here. I'm giving
Thank you.
you on your presenter. Please continue.
Sure. Thank you. Thanks, Karthik. Hi. So welcome everyone for this HP ALM QC orientation session. So as you can see, we are saying it's a mandatory skills for everyone to become a software test engineer. So even you go to basically any company where they develop a product, or it could be any application, and that even it through a manual testing they do it for the validation, or they use automation. Definitely, they will be using, most of the companies, if not all the companies, will be using this ALM or Quality Center tool for maintaining all these, artifacts related to the software project testing as well as for the development. So that was the caption that you can actually think of. So it's a kind of a important skill for a software test engineer or who is aspiring for a software test engineer to be. So the agenda is very simple for the orientation. So we're going to walk through a couple of things, like we'll introduce to what is the HP ALM QC software is all about. If still anybody not aware of what exactly ALM, it's application lifecycle management. So we will be understanding what is an application, what is its life cycle, and how we manage throughout this course in a very high level statement. So that we'll talk about a little bit of history, why this tool is needed and what kind of difficulties we used to have before the tools like ALM or Quality Center. And then we'll do a little bit more detailed introduction about the ALM tool itself. And then we'll talk about what are the advantages of using the tool. So as I said previously, we'll be talking about the difficulties without the tool. So that will most of them convert into advantages of going for this particular tool. And what are the two major components of this particular ALM or QC software, and what are the roles and responsibilities in each of these components? So that we will be talking about, and who will be using this. So even though as a primarily we're talking about quality test engineers, but definitely who are all the part of the project team who will be using, and what are the industries who are actually using this one. And then we'll talk about the prospects of learning this ALM, the kind of job prospectors, and but one thing, as I said in the beginning, even the manual testing team or anybody who is doing the testing and application development, they will also be using the ALM software. And then finally, we'll have a good amount of time for the Q&A so that we can take up if you have any questions. So that's a simple agenda. And just to give you a glimpse of how the tool looks like and all, so I just put up a screenshot which will give you a fair idea about it, a very high level screenshot of the ALM software. Any questions on the agenda so far? Or if any audiences are expecting anything else, you can probably ask in the Q&A so that we can talk about it. So moving ahead. So what is application lifecycle management? Think of any software. So be it a product, or it could be any application nowadays that you can run it on your mobile, or you can run it on your any kind of a device. It gets developed through different phases of life cycle. So I'm going with a fair assumption that you guys have an idea about the typical software development life cycle, which will have different phases like requirements phase, followed by design, and during the requirements, once things are clear, you may have a prototype, and then you will go about coding or building the application. Then it comes for the testing or validation, and then goes to UAT for the users to validate it. If that happens, then we will go deploy it in the production, and from there we will have maintenance for about certain amount of time, where we'll try to see there are no issues, or if there are any issues, we'll try to kind of provide a quick fix for them. So different phases, right from requirements to design, coding, testing, implementation or deployment to the maintenance. In all these phases, there are so many artifacts that are gets developed as part of these phases. For example, uh, during the requirements, in fact, little bit of story happens before even requirements also. That is in the form of business requirement specification or business requirement document. But if we take the core project development lifecycle, so our story starts from the requirements basically. So we get some clear requirements from the project management team, who will be interacting, talking to the business management, and kind of refine them. So from there, if you take it, so you have got requirements of the project to be developed, and based on those requirements, our team will come up with design documents, high level design, low level design. Based on that, the test team will come up with the test plan activity, what we have to test in this particular project, and what is our strategy. And then you will have test cases to be testing for that. You will have your positive test cases, negative test cases for functional testing, non-functional testing like load performance, security, compatibility for various aspects of them. So you will be writing the test cases. How do we go about testing them? So you have artifacts at every stage. Like, so I'm currently talking about testing stage. So you have your test cases ready for testing it. So now the question comes, who is going to execute these test cases? So you will be, your test lead will be assigning them to the corresponding test engineers who will be executing them. While they are doing all the validations, it takes a good amount of time, maybe 1 month, 2 months, depending on the life cycle. They will encounter issues, or you can call them as bugs, or they'll encounter different errors, so which we predominantly call them as defects. So all these defects also way to maintain it. So we'll try to maintain it in a repository like ALM. So now you have requirements, design, then you have your test plan activity, you have test cases, and you found some defects. So the question is, where do we maintain all this? So in the olden days, they used to maintain only defects initially in the form of Excel sheet. So if I'm talking about a scenario 10, 12 years back, whoever started with the software development and testing, all that has used to happen through majorly through MS Office softwares like Excel. So whenever they write test cases, they used to write it in Excel. And when they go about executing them, they go about executing one by one test case and mark it as completed, not completed, whatnot. And when they figure it out any defect, again they will maintain another Excel sheet in which they used to maintain defect 1 is about this, defect 2 is about this, and certain fields. So that time was very difficult times where I started my career around 12 years back, because if somebody asks for the status, I cannot give it immediately. So I need to have a good amount of filters, macros in my Excel to figure it out, how much percentage I completed, how many defects I found in my today's testing, so that I can go and give it to my test manager or test lead, whoever is asking for the status. So I need to spend an extra amount of time for figuring out the status of my job, what I have done for the day or week. So it was a very difficult time. So that time, then slowly, people thought of we should have some kind of a tool where we can maintain the defects information. So a couple of defect tracking tools came in. To name a few, most of you might have heard about Bugzilla and other kind of tools, but they were restricting only for the defects or issues. So that was only a limited functionality for defects and reporting on top of those defects, like probably how many critical defects that I found, or how many medium complex defects I found. So a little bit of a status reporting on that. But again, that was not a complete solution because it was only for the defect tracking. So later on, people developed tools which will help us in writing test cases also. So now we have a tool where we have test cases we can write as well as we can maintain the defects. And again, the status on both of them, how much testing is completed, how much testing is pending, how many defects we found, what is the criticality. So we kind of had a solution for both test cases and defect. But again, that it's not sufficient. So again, the companies were looking for some kind of a place where they can maintain our test plan activities as well as requirements of the project also. So then slowly the tools evolved into where you can maintain the requirements, where you can maintain your test related activities, and where you can maintain your defects, and then you can actually take the status out of it. Now, if we look at any project life cycle, so it will be done through certain releases, and each release will have multiple cycles. It may be single cycle or multiple cycles. So even the tools evolved into the phases of maintaining your releases as well as cycles into those projects, and then followed by requirements of the project and your design related activities, then your test coding related activities, test related activities, defects. So typically the ALM software will help you to maintain all these artifacts in every phase of the life cycle. Like you can see from the leftmost is where you can it talks about the requirements of the system what we are going to develop, or application what we're going to develop, followed by we have designing activities where they do various design activities, and then sorry, and then they will come to the actual coding or development activity, followed by you have a validation activity, and then finally deploying into the system. So the ALM software helps maintaining all the artifacts related to all these phases. I can also talk about one other thing, like previously the teams used to be very limited. Maybe for if I'm the only member in the project, definitely I don't need a software like this. But you take any project, you will have a good amount of project teams, right from your a business analyst who will give the requirements from the customers to the project manager who will be actually converting them into the requirements of the project that we're going to develop. Then you have development team and testing team may be sitting together, may not be sitting together. They may be geographically located in different locations. So you have development team, you have testing team, you have a support or operations team who will be taking care of your hardware deployments and things like that. So you have a services or operations team, and again you have the business users again who will be validating your software after development and testing. So all these people, they are geographically located in different places. So definitely we need some kind of a central repository tool where we maintain all these deliverables that we try to do at each milestone, like requirements, design, coding, and testing, etc. That's one of the primary requirement. And whatever the test cases are, suppose within the test team itself, sometimes some testers may be sitting in US, sometimes some testers may be sitting in other location. So whatever the test cases that I write, somebody else might be executing from the other location. Similarly, what they write, I will be executing it. So we need a, a central repository that can be accessed from anywhere. If I take myself itself, probably this week, let's say I'm working from India, and probably next week I may be required to be in US for suppose supporting the UAT, for example. So I should be able to access all these artifacts from the other location as well. So when it started, the software started with only client-server Windows-based applications, but today they evolved into completely web applications where you can access them from anywhere as long as you're connected to your corporate network. So you can access them from anywhere in the world. So it's like a web-based application. So in a nutshell, if I put everything together, what exactly an ALM software is, It's a software that will manage your entire application lifecycle from requirements to the deployment and maintenance. And it is a web-based application where you can access from anywhere with a proper security, and it gives 100% security to all your artifacts, so that you can be very confident about what test cases, defects, and everything that you're logging if your project is a very critical software. So any questions so far?
So Shankar, I think from my end, I think it's going good. Let's see if there are questions. You will typically see the questions in the questions chat section. Are you able to see that at your end?
In the chart, I don't see anything right now. I don't see anything in the chart.
Not the chat. There's a questions tab. In the GoToMeeting, on the left side, you'll be able to see under attendees or so a questions section. Under webcam. Do you see that?
Yeah, webcam, audio.
You know what? Let me see if I can make you the organizer also.
Yeah, looks like there are some questions. Let me.
Okay, yeah. So just letting you know that the questions will keep coming up here as you go along, and we should be able to refer and be able to answer the audience.
Okay. Okay, somebody was asking, will you show how to install ALM in training? Definitely. So we can talk about that installation in the detail sessions. What is the version of ALM you are explaining? So I'm trying to pick up the latest, that is the 12.0. That's what we have currently, the latest one. Unless otherwise, we may flip to a little bit of 11.5, but mostly 12.0. That's the latest one. So that's all. How prototype define. So ALM follows client server architecture. Sure. So how you define a prototype? Basically, I just use that word in the flow of entering explaining SDLC, but we can talk about prototype itself for a good amount of time. But if I just quickly put you in a very high level, it's like a simulation, a simulated copy of the actual system what you're going to develop. So if I directly develop the system, it might go to my customers only after 2 or 3 months down the line, maybe after my coding is completed, testing is completed. Rather than that, people experienced a bad experience with that approach, especially if it is a V1 project, a brand new project. Definitely they will go with a prototype, a simulated copy of it, show it to the customers, get a sign off, and based on that they will develop the actual system. So that's the high level thing about prototype. There are different variations of prototype. Probably we can talk them in detail session if required. Difference between QC and ALM. Yes, so this is definitely a valid question that we can talk about in the orientation. So before ALM came into picture, it was called Quality Center. Before that, it was called Test Director, things like that. So Quality Center used to maintain only the requirements, and it used to maintain the test plan, test suits, etc. What you're going to execute. We call them as test sets. And then you have defects and a little bit of dashboard on all these things. In the ALM, we are talking about a complete application lifecycle, right from how you plan your project, how many releases you are planning for this project. So we have different SDLC models. If you it could be a waterfall model, or even today's most of the people are using the agile model. So how many releases or the iterations in which you're planning to deliver the project to the customer. So you can maintain those iterations or cycles in the ALM application, and also you can clearly define your milestones, like I will have my requirements complete by end of Jan, or end of Jan, let's say, and the design complete by mid of Feb, and then coding complete by end of March. So you can clearly define your milestones in the ALM system, and you can track your status against that particular milestone. So it's a one more step ahead beyond your quality center. Quality center was primarily focusing on test related artifacts management, but your application lifecycle management takes care of your entire application lifecycle. What is the meaning of patch? Patch is like a fix to any, suppose you have a software delivered but there is a small issue or there is a problem, so you try to provide a fix for it. That's what we call it as a patch, basically to fix that particular problem. Yes, so another very good important question is like, are these components connected with each other, such as requirements are connected to design? Yes, very well, because that's another problem that we used to have before ALM softwares was, okay, I have my test cases, I have my defects, but I found this defect while executing which test case. So again, I need to look for which test case I was executing, and then I found it. So there was no traceability between them. So we have a concept of traceability. So traceability is basically while executing which test case, actually it started with at a high level requirements perspective. For example, you have your requirements and you're writing your test cases. What is a guarantee that you're covering all the requirements? So people started with a simple 2x2 matrix of traceability, putting of all the requirements one side, test cases one side, and ensuring, okay, I covered my requirement 1 with test case 1, I covered my requirement 2 with test case 2. But that's not the end there. After that, you will execute those test cases and you find defects. Okay, while executing test case 1, I found defect 1. So ALM maintains a complete traceability from requirements to your test cases to your defects, vice versa. If I know the defect, I can find out which test case it was, and if I know the test case, I can find out which requirement it was. Similarly, the other way. And sometimes you may be connected to defect also. For example, I have a defect 1 and I have a defect 2, but they are similar in nature, so we will put a link between them also. Sometimes I have two duplicate defects. So like tester 1 log defect 1, tester 2 log defect 2, but they are actually duplicate while fixing it, so they can link it. So we'll do all these things in the detailed session, how we can link them. Does ALM provide reports for all the components? Yes, for your releases, requirements, your test plan activities, defects, everywhere we have the reports and graphs. So that's the major features of them. Okay, so I think major questions I have covered, but we can definitely take at the end. So this is at high level what exactly the ALM software is all about. So let me get back to the presentation. So what are the two major components? Like one is we have site administrator component. Previously we used to call it as quality center administrator or site administrator. It's the same. This is a quality center screenshot, so don't really go with that. But we can definitely talk about the ALM part of administration. And then we have the quality center or ALM tool itself. So these are the two major components of it. Again, this screenshot is from 11.5, so don't really go into the details of them. So when we have the latest version, we'll go with the latest. So in the site administrator, the administrator, so nowadays we have various exclusive jobs for this administration itself, because taking care of all these domains in which we will deliver the projects. A company might have different lines of business, like they might be into financial domain, they might be into insurance domain, they might be into enterprise resource planning domain. So there might be different domains in which they deliver the projects. So creating of all those domains, under each domain creating different projects. Like for example, under financial domain, I have, let's say, project 1, project 2, project 3. So creating those projects and who are the users of those projects. For example, a new test engineer joins in the team. So adding that new test engineer, I should actually stop using only test engineer, because everybody uses the ALM. So if a new member joins, maybe he belongs to PM community, or maybe he belongs to services community, or maybe he belongs to development community. So adding a new member into that particular project and making him as a only read-only user, or a, kind of where he can do read-write activities, or he can do a project administration activity. So making that user as administrator. So those activities will be done in the site administrator, like creating domain, creating projects, adding users, and if a project is not very active, so making it as kind of on the shelf, like kind of taking it out of quality center, and whenever it comes back again, making it as active project. Or if one application, very classical legacy application we are completely retiring that, so removing it from the quality center itself. And then if I have to go for a new version, if the company has decided to go with a new version of ALM, so how we can upgrade the software to the new version. So all that will be done by the site administrator. As a test engineer, as a developer, or the core member of the application engineering team, I would say, you will be into the second component. You will be working with only the second component, that is the quality center or ALM software, in which your test lead will create test plan. Your project manager will create the releases and the releases and the cycles and the requirements. And your core activity starts from, if you're a core test engineer or a senior software engineer, so you will be start working from creating your test cases, creating your automation scripts. So another various advantage of best advantage of ALM software is you can maintain your automation source code as well. So if you're an automation test engineer, creating your automation scripts, maintaining them, running them from the quality center, tracking the defects and everything. So that are the primary responsibilities of quality center or ALM software that you will be using. But if somebody is like, as we already have a question about installation and all, so those comes under the administrator activities. So these are the two major components. We'll do a very quick thing in the detailed sessions about the administrator, but majorly we'll spend on the, like we have to definitely create a domain project to work with ALM. So we'll be dealing with administrator in a very high level. Okay, so actually these are the prerequisites for learning the software. I think that's a fair assumption. Like the kind of questions that I'm getting at, most of the people you already know about basic testing, like what is requirement, what is test case. Otherwise, also don't worry much, because when we are dealing that particular module, we will be dealt in little bit detail. Like for example, if I'm talking about the release module, so we'll definitely talk about what are the different types of releases that industry deals with, for services industry, products industry, and in the agile methodology and all that we can talk about a little bit, so that we will have a fair amount of so they in method of agile, they don't call it as requirements at all, they call it as user story. So we'll talk about a little bit on them when we actually deal with those modules. And but otherwise, this is a fair assumption that I can make, that people are already aware of what exactly a requirement, a test case, how to write a test case, what are the different fields of a test case, then how do you log a defects. Otherwise also, don't worry at all. So we'll talk about those fields. For example, if I have to log a defect itself, so I might have some 20-30 fields, so in which we'll try to talk about each field until you understand like what exactly severity, priority, what type of defect it is, and things like that. And knowledge of different SDLC models. Again, if you would have done the software test engineering training, like the most training from the ITeLearn, or if you have a fair amount of software development, so that should be good enough. Like different SDLC models, like waterfall, agile, it could be a V model or things like that. And if at all you have used any defect tracking tool like Bugzilla or any other thing, that's an added advantage. But if you don't know any of them, that's actually very easy to onboard into the ALM, because you did not have any other I'm sorry, you have not seen any other systems, you can easily onboard to them. But if at all you will have some questions like I'm sorry. So in Bugzilla, this is a field, and in ALM, this is a field. So you might have questions, what is the difference, kind of stuff. I'm sorry. So any questions on the prerequisites assumption? I think I made a very fair assumption that basic things. Even if you're just starting with this, don't worry much. We'll deal it in detail. And who will be using? Frankly speaking, it's not just related to an automation. People mostly talk about automation tools and all. Even if you're using only manual testing, if your company is using only manual testing, let's say you have projects related to healthcare, hospital, banking, insurance, or general products that you're developing or any application that you're developing. Even with manual testing, this is one of the primary tool as a test engineer that you should aware of how the things will move from requirements to the final deployment. So every software industry, mostly they will be used. There are very few competitors for this in the market, but yeah, so this is the predominantly used in the organizations. People are coming up with other project development, life cycle management softwares and all, but you can check it over online. So this is a predominant one as of today and within a short span of time. So this is just about the different prospects of roles in the organizations. Like if you work in a corporate IT or IS, what kind of this is more of a role-wise in your organization. So any other questions before I move ahead? Are you going to explain QC10 to ALM 11 data migration and upgrade? Frankly speaking, that comes under administrator activity. So unless otherwise you're an administrator, you may not need. So we can also deal it in the other way. Like so, there are some add-ins available for the ALM and Quality Center for the Microsoft Office, like Excel. Suppose if you have any test cases in your ALM software, you can export them into Excel, and again you can import them into your ALM software from your previous version of it. Similarly, if you have requirements, you can export them into Word documents and or Excel, and you can again import them into your ALM software. Which programming language is used in ALM? So let me take that question because that's very important. So when it comes to the automation tools, right? So if I talk about automation, there are three major areas of automation. You have functional testing automation, have your load performance testing automation, and most of the people will try to tie up this with also automation. So it's like a application lifecycle management software we have. If I talk about QTP or UFT, that's a functional testing automation where you will use some programming, some language to automate your application. So you will be using your VB script or JavaScript language to do that. Similarly, if you go with roadrunner, you will be using some kind of a C, C++ kind of a language to do that. If you go to selenium, you'll use again Java, C# whatever. ALM is not that kind of tool. It's a simple repository tool where you maintain your requirements, where you maintain your documents, retrieve them on the need basis. So we have another feature called version controlling feature where you can check in your documents, check out your documents so that it provides the security. For example, I have written a very complicated automation script, or I have written a very complicated test case for my business features, and I have a doubt if somebody takes that, edits it, it's a problem. So we have a version controlling software. When everybody check out and check in, there is a gate basically. Why are you checking in? What is the business reason that you are modifying this? So there is a clear version controlling feature. So again, coming back to that question, ALM software does not use any programming language to do. If your question is in which ALM is developed, that is a different question. But as a ALM user, you're not going to use any programming language. Are you going to explain Excel and Word add-ins? Yes, we will be talking about them, how to import, export test cases, requirements, things like that. Is Qt or UFT integrated in ALM? Yes. So whatever this ALM software can be integrated with other HP tools. So this is from HP, as most of you know. And there are other HP tools, like we have UFT tool, QTP tool, Unified Functional Testing tool. We have Load Runner tool. So if at all you have any, if your company is using both of them, let's say you're using QTP or UFT and you have using ALM, you can do an integration. So we'll see even though it's not related to the QTP or UFT course, we can definitely talk about from ALM perspective, how can I integrate my ALM software with QTP and then running one or two scripts from there and tracking the results back into the ALM. So yes, it is very much possible for integrating with QTP and other HP related softwares. Do you mean that ALM is only used as a repository for automation part 2? No, you can see, you can take this ALM to the level of continuous integration, continuous deployment level, where you can schedule it in such a way that your scripts can run automatically in part of your daily releases and things like that. You can take it to that level. How you can integrate QTP with ALM. So while creating your, maybe at a high level we can address it, but we'll have to see in detail when we actually do that. So you need to have the latest version of the QTP or UFT software available on your client machine, as well as you have your the latest version of ALM connected to it. And when you create a test case, you will have a manual type of a test case, as well as you have an automation type of a test case. And if it is an automation, you have a QTP related one, a load runner related one, or any API related ones. You have different sets of test cases. So you will have to use the corresponding QTP or UFT one, and you can launch the UFT tool from your ALM software. You can develop your script within the ALM software. In the QTP, and then you can save it back into your ALM. So we'll see that how we can integrate it. Actually, for test cases, ALM was used only for test cases. You can use it if you have only test cases and defects. You can use that, but you're not actually using the complete features of ALM. So ALM is for entire application lifecycle. Of course, that's not in our hand. It has to be into the entire project team has to decide. We will track everything from requirements to the deployment through ALM, or only requirements. And I have seen people using ALM only for test cases and defects, or somebody is using only for test cases because they have a legacy defect tracking tool that their clients are not interested to go to any other tool. So but it's a kind of an education that is required with the client, saying if you have to gather everything into this, it will actually help our life easy. So it's a call it the project team with the customer to decide that. But if you want only certain modules, yes, you can use, but the advantage comes only if you use right from beginning of the life cycle to the end. Now, can we link defects with other defects tracking tools like Jira? So we have certain kind of add-ins, or I would say certain Jira I need to explore, but definitely I have seen people using with other softwares, like if you have any Microsoft Test Manager related software. Again, for everything the interface is your MS Office. So if at all you have export import, you can do that. But if you want to directly connect it, probably I need to explore with Jira. I really not use the Jira with QC integration at all. We can do that. I can explore that and probably let you know. Any other questions? So actually I've taken this for the software engineers in terms of Microsoft technologies, but not only Microsoft technologies who will use the ALM, but most of the as I said, every team who will be using the software testing, who will be using the application lifecycle in a processed way, they will be prefer to use the ALM software. And I can also talk about one more point here. The future direction of ALM is, in fact, they have already started. So things are becoming rich, like day by day. Previously we had only defects, now we had defects and test cases, and then we have requirements, and then we have releases. So the kind of tool is becoming rich day by day with heavy functionalities and heavy stuff. That's why a couple of people have the questions related to installations and things like that. And this is not straightforward, like where you can install your QTP or UFT on your client machine, or maybe a load runner, or maybe any other software. So this is a client server related software. So where you need to have a good amount of hardware set up in your organization, or even if you wanted to do it individual, you need to have a server set up on your machine, preferably 2008 R2 or 2012 R2 Windows operating system. And then you need to deploy server components, and then you need to deploy your client components. When you want to practice, when you want to do it as an individual, you don't need to really worry much about it, because in the organizations, these software, the administrators, quality center administrators will take care of having all that. So you will be clearly created a project and you'll be added to the project. All that you will do is log in with your credentials and start using it. But if you talk from the overall software perspective, the software is becoming day by day heavy, because it requires all these features to be deployed. So what HP is done in the latest 12.0 is, so they are also coming up with the cloud aspects of it. Like, they are offering through the cloud. So they have started with the software as a service. The part of the cloud, you have the IaaS, infrastructure as service, you have your platform as service, you have software as service. So they started offering the software as a service. Uh, so that you don't need to really much. I mean, if at all any organization is coming up with fresh and they wanted to go with the ALM software, they don't need to buy all that big hardware. They don't need to, put the money into the hardware thing. So if you trust on the quality from the HP side and all, and that's how the cloud it is, right? So they will offer the software as a service, so that you can just start using as a plain software on your client side. So probably that's a good direction that they have started, and hopefully people will start using more, because they don't need to really worry about the hardware cost of it. So these are some of the references that I've just put it up. So it's all from HP site, from where you can download the latest version of 12.0 and other information that you may be interested in. So any other questions?
Shankar, I had a couple of points that I wanted to add from my side. One is, team, I wanted everyone to know that number one, it has been high time since we have done a live training of HP ALM while we've been having videos for a while, and that Shankar has come on board to go through that live structured training. As part of what and how we are designing this particular training course, Shankar will be taking a live project and will walk you through how the testing is going to be performed on that application. And while doing that, he is going to show how we implement the entire testing methodology using HP ALM. And post that, we will get into a stage where we talk about a live project where you will be doing it hands-on under the guidance of Shankar and our technical team at ITeLearn. Now, what would happen is for someone who's got a very, very basic knowledge of IT industry or is a very beginner to it, the approach that we're taking for this live training will really help you. So I believe we've scheduled the day 1 and day 2 for next week, and I think that's a great time for you to come on board and see how these sessions go, and you'll be able to then see if it's the right fit for you. The whole intent of this session is we wanted to talk about the popularity of ALM and Quality Center. We wanted to show you how the job market is in this and so on. Do note this, team. You may not get a job purely by saying that I know HP ALM or QC. I'm not saying you will not. I'm saying the chances are not so high. However, it is almost by default one of the skills that is expected from you. So it is something that the market expects you to know for every software test engineer. It may not be just ALM. It could be any kind of a defect management. It could be any kind of a test artifact management tool like ALM or Jira or Bugzilla and many other tools that are in the market. It is important as every manual test engineer to have such kind of a skill. And how you can learn, how you can easily apply it and be able to showcase your skill is what we will focus in this training. The Shankar, I hope I've made sense of what I'm trying to say. I have sent a link on your Skype. If you can open it, it will show you the trend of QC versus QTP from a simply hired perspective.
Okay.
I don't think I added you earlier, so it could be something that um, must have come right now.
This is the one you're talking about? No. It's from which ID, Karthik?
Verkasa.inc. You know what? I'll put it here. Don't worry. Just wait on the chat.
Okay.
I'll put it on the
Okay.
chat. It'll be easy for you to pick it up. I'm copying some Selenium code. Give me one. Alright, that is the link that is shared with everyone. So if you can open that, it shows basically from a simple hired perspective what are the job trends, I believe, in the last 2 years for both Quality Center and QTP parallel.
Is this the one, Karthik?
Yes. So what this says is basically that QTP has been having a good steady market. It's been declining a little bit. However, QC, if you see, is much higher because there are more jobs that expect QCP to be there. Again, as I say, it is not a by default the only skill you need to have, but kind of a mandatory skill like Quality Center, any other test management tools.
Okay.
So let's see if there are any other questions from the audience. We are here for another 5-6 minutes, team. So please, you're welcome to put your questions there, and we will.
So somebody has a question like when is QC came to be called as ALM version and all that. So until 10.0 it was a quality center. So thereafter, like in 11.0 itself, they renamed it as ALM, the application lifecycle management. So 11.0, 11.5, and 12.0, they are all ALM versions. Before that 10.0 it was a quality center. Before that, if you've gone to before 8.2 it was a test director with only a, sorry, before 7.4 it was all a test director with only a Windows software, not really a web Windows application. Any other questions? Yeah, so that's one thing definitely. It's not really a need at all. Like the question is, what is the reason of using ALM with other defect tracking tools? No. So definitely there, unless like they were moving it from a only defect tracking tool to ALM. So the question might be at that particular point of the time, like how we can pull in that data, because we don't want to lose the history of all the defects that we have for last 10 years or 15 years. So that may be the question that came there. But otherwise, if you really see, there is no need to integrate your quality center with other defect tracking tools. Can we integrate Selenium with ALM? So it is not a direct yes, because that's not from an HP or anything. But what actually happens is like the quality center can be integrated with, so they have certain services exposed through which they can connect to other technologies. Probably on the Selenium side, you may need to have some kind of a code written so that, but again, it's not a direct thing that cannot be done. But how it can be done with QTP and other things, because it's all from the same company, so they are giving an interface, they are giving an add-in through which we are able to do it. Is there any open source test case management tools? You can definitely find a few things on the internet, but it's only for your test management, or it's only for your test cases. Yeah, another good question is like how long will it take to complete this course? So we are planning it for a 10 sessions, as Karthik already said it, for the live orientations. But after that, definitely we will help you in doing the complete life cycle through your hands for a particular project. So uh, we will there to help you until you complete it, maybe another 10 sessions. Is that right, Karthik?
That's right. Yeah, tentatively depends, and then as we proceed, we'll know.
So you will get to know from our team like when the sessions are going to start. Is the session time 5 p.m. PST? Yeah, it's the same time unless otherwise. You will get to know all those details followed by. It's not an open source. It is commercial software. But again, as I said, so previously you would require a good amount of hardware cost as well as software cost. But with the direction of cloud offerings that they're planning to move ahead, so you need to worry about only the software costs now, not really much about the hardware cost. So it's not an open source. It's a commercial tool as of today. We don't know the future yet with the competitions that may come up, but as of today, it's not open source. It's a purely commercial tool. So as of now, there's no plan for exclusively for administrate. So like somebody was asking, will you guys deal with the ALM admin exclusively? Not really. So this is mainly for the software engineering team to use it, but we'll deal with definitely a little bit of admin activities like creating domains and projects and things like that. Can we have access to ALM in PC? So that is what. So the primary requirement for this is the server operating system. So you need to have a Windows 2008 R2 or 2012 R2 in which you deploy your server. So you can access from any machine. That's not a problem at all. But the only major part is the server part. So that we need to have any server operating system in which we will deploy the server side components. So that's actually a pain point right now for most of the companies, and not companies basically, if you wanted to do personally, because you need to have a good hardware configuration like 2008 R2 with the 8 GB RAM that is minimum expected for your system for the latest ALM to go. Until 10.0, it was not really a big thing. Even though it was a client server, it was not really a big thing. It you can actually do it on any 2003 server, 2008 server, on a 4 GB RAM. You could do all that until 2000, sorry, until QC 10.0. But things became very rich in 11.0 and 11.5 and 12.0. That's when you need a good hardware actually. No, 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 no. Do we need to purchase the latest version of ALM, participate in live projects? No. So you will get a 30 days trial version from the HP. So you can complete within the 30 days. 30 days is a good amount of time that you can actually do much of the things. But yes, to answer your question, once you install, the countdown starts, so it will be better you practice as soon as possible or wait until for the installation once we complete our live sessions. That's when you can actually install and then start using it as much as possible within the 30 days. You don't need to purchase for you to practice basically. Sorry, I could not take up all the questions, but if I just go a little bit back, if we take up one or two questions from the previous. Is ALM used for mobile app projects? Like, as I said, any application. Your application could be for whatever the customer type. Like, we call it as an application. It could be mobile application, it could be your Windows application, it could be a web application, it could be any application. Think of like this: any application will have some requirements to implement. So that's where the whole story starts. So we are not going to really put that mobile related or anything as such into the system. So you can use it for any kind of an application. Any other questions? Is to go parallelly with Selenium, like as I already said, Selenium, they can use it for an automation, but they don't get a integration with it unless they have they will write certain code from the Java side to, and even for that, HP is not ready to expose any of these features to for other tools. So it's mainly for HP tools to go with parallelly, basically the QTP or UFT, and but this is for your application lifecycle management. Completely, it will help whatever the automation you are using, be it QTP, UFT, or Selenium, and all that. But if there is an API interface in which Quality Center where you can maintain your API related test cases, so you need to write it in that particular format to maintain within the Quality Center admin.
I think the question there,
yes, no, because
Shankar,
yes, you need to do.
Was if the batch is going to go parallelly with the selenium. If both the trainings are. Sorry, Shankar, you continue, please.
Hello. Hello.
I think that's it, Shankar, from our side. Then we will communicate further steps, dates, timings, and all the other details in the email going forward. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and we'll see you back in the continued sessions, which will be primarily the day 1, day 2 of the training. And we look forward to your feedback on how the session went and what you would expect from us as we go through the training. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much, Shankar. Thank you so much for driving through the session. It was a smooth flow. Thank you so much.